Doctors will have more lives to answer for in the next world than even we generals. Now, who do you think said that? Pretty good hint there, he's a general. How about medicine is a collection of prescriptions, the results of which, taken collectively, are more fatal than good to mankind. Who do you think said that? Do you know who it is? And do you know why he would say that? Do you know who he was influenced by? Well, I'll tell you who it was. It's Napoleon. Interesting quote, isn't it? Even doctors will have more lives to answer for in the next world than even we generals. He knew. Now, Napoleon was born in 1769 and died in 1821 at the age of 54. But when he was born, Voltaire was 75 and 9 years later died at the age of 84. So it's obvious that Napoleon was heavily influenced by the greatest thinker of that country, probably all the whole planet at the time, Voltaire. Brilliant man. Now, you know I quote Voltaire quite often. I'm a big fan of Voltaire. He said that doctors are men who prescribe drugs of which they know little, to treat diseases of which they know less, and human beings of whom they know nothing. He also said, few doctors dare to undermine their income by spreading knowledge of preventive medicine. And it's a windy day out here, and I might have to dive at that camera in a second. But anyway, this is an important point to understand, because the people who finance both sides of these wars want to kill as many of us as they can. That's why there are more soldiers who die at the hands of the doctors than they do at the hands of their opponents. We're doing it to ourselves. I talk about this quite often. I was reminded and shared the speech that Dr. Russell Trawl gave in 1862 as a surgeon in the Civil War. He saw what was happening and how the kids were living in filth, the soldiers, and they'd come down with measles and they'd give them a drug which would lead to another symptom, which they'd give another drug for, which would lead to another symptom, and on till they finally died. Death by injection, death by medicine. This tactic has been used against us for over 3,000 years at least. I'm convinced it was the very first thing that was used against us, period. Once we made a mistake and lost one of our senses, the fall of mankind, once that happened to us, it changed everything. It changed our mentality. It created a need for governments that we never had before. We didn't have governments before. We didn't need it. But when we lost our sixth sense, the mob could no longer rule itself. So mob rule doesn't work. That's why there are these cycles in governments. I talked about this the other day, and I did a video back on it. Satan's secret weapon. I explained how the people who control us do it through medicine. They get us to fight amongst ourselves. War is one of their best weapons against us. It gets us to fight amongst ourselves. And then since they control the medical industry, the doctors come in and they actually kill more people. This is such an important topic for us to understand. Now, you can't help but wonder, well, that's a time difference. You know, we're talking about a couple hundred years here, John. But nothing's changed. That's the whole point I'm making now. It's happening today. It was happening back in Russell Trawl's time, 150 years or so ago. Napoleon's time, the same thing was happening. It's always been used against us. Remember, it's a form of black magic. And you have to understand that the rulers of the world are magicians. That's what they are. It's just one big con. They're just tricking us, fooling us, keeping us sick, taking advantage of the fact that we are sick. And you really can't blame the doctors. And another thing Voltaire said, he said, you know, he was very critical of medicine, Voltaire was, obviously. And he said that of all the physicians, out of 100 physicians, 98 of them were charlatans. Now, when he said that 98 out of 100 doctors were charlatans, did he mean that they knew what they were doing was bad? Well, how can they not know? Even Russell Trawl said that the older doctors at his time, even if they didn't understand what he knew, they knew at least one thing, that when they started their career, they had so many drugs, like 25 drugs for one disease. Now they have 25 diseases for one drug. As you get older, you learn that. You see the connection. It's an amazing state of denial most doctors must live in to live with themselves. And I tried talking to people that were retired, and I guarantee you there was nothing I could say to convince that person that their whole life was a joke, a scam, that they killed more people than they helped. They actually still think they help people. And what do they think? Well, look how many times I injected them and I saved their life, gave them those vaccines. Look how many people's lives I saved. No, it doesn't work that way. Remember, the number one cause of illness on this planet is filth. It's outside, it's inside. We're filthy creatures. And it's all because of the food we eat. Now our own waste matter is so polluted you can't even use it for fertilizer. Dr. Pottinger proved that and illustrated that in his Pottinger cat study. Went through 900 cats in a 10-year period of time and fed the cats the same food. Half of them, he let them eat it the way they would eat in nature. The other half made them eat it the way we eat it, cooked it for them. Cats ate cooked food, got all the same problems we had, but one thing that was really interesting, the reason why I'm bringing it up now, is he couldn't grow anything using the cat's waste matter. You could use the other cat's waste matter and grow anything you wanted to. I guess, not pretty much, within reason. But he could grow anything with the other cat's manure. And that was a connection I saw not too long ago, realizing that if our waste matter wasn't so bad out there, then we wouldn't have the horrible type of diseases related to filth that are coming in from outside. And I talked about this the other day, and I didn't deliver the point like I should have. The Roman Empire was conquered in the east and in the west, or in the west and in the east, about 1,000 years apart. Conquerors came in, did the same thing they all do. They destroyed the infrastructure so that disease would spread. You know, destroy the aqueducts, destroy the sewage system. And then what happened, and this is what I forgot to say the other day, and I've said this story many times, but forgot to say it last time. The plague broke out. And what happened? They destroyed the sewer systems. So most of our diseases that these clowns are claiming are infectious and there's some virus that's causing it is basically filth, but it's horrible filth. And now our whole planet is so polluted. There's no place anywhere on this planet that our pollution hasn't reached to some degree. Obviously, some areas a whole lot worse. So everything in nature is not the way it should be right now. Someone made a comment a while back saying, well, John, what about the Indians? Didn't we give them smallpox in the blankets? No, we gave them filth. There is no smallpox in the blankets. The smallpox is the body's reaction to the filth coming into us. The same as the snake that swallows the blanket, that's a captive in a zoo and finally decides to eat the blanket. That's all there was. A couple days later, he threw it back up. What do you call that condition? It had nothing to do with the blanket. It had to do with something in the body that didn't belong there, and the body responded to it. So when those blankets were given to the Indians, we soak them in fecal matter first. We gave them fecal soaked blankets, and they're freezing. Just imagine how good those warm fecal soaked blankets would feel like on a cold day. You'd forget about it having a bunch of fecal matter on it because you're freezing to death. Got to satisfy that one need first. But then you're going to get smallpox. Oh, the smallpox was in the blankets. No, it was filth that was in the blankets. When the filth comes into us, our body goes through stages dealing with it. And if we're given drugs, it develops in the worst stages. That's what kills you. Smallpox. Oh, it's starting to hemorrhage. Hemorrhagic smallpox. That only happens when you're given the drugs. It's the drugs that are doing it. Disease is a bodily process. It's body initiated. It's remedial in its purpose. And our system right now thinks that they got to stop it. That's their job. Got to interfere with that process. No, that's a magic act. That's like clipping the wires on a sending unit, or just taking the sending unit out of a car so that the light on your dashboard doesn't come on anymore. That's what diseases are. Smallpox, AIDS, polio, whatever. It's a warning light on our body saying, help me, help me. I'm either low on something, but mostly I got something in me don't belong there. A lot of it's my own waste matter because I'm putting the wrong fuel in. My whole system's blocked up. We got lymphatic congestion. That's what disease is, lymphatic congestion. Hypolymphatic tension. Just like hypercolonic tension, hyperlymphatic tension are the problems that we face. There's too much waste matter in us. And of course, if waste matter comes from other places and gets inside of us, we're going to have to deal with it. And they come along, they name the symptom like it's the disease. Oh, you got the smallpox. It was a virus that came in and got you. No. In almost every case, it's filth. And the drugs are the worst filth of all. The worst thing you can do is stick a drug in you when you're sick. Doesn't help you when you're healthy. How can it help you when you're sick? It can't. Oh, but disease is an entity. We got to kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. No. It's a wrong approach. It's not. They got a war metaphor going on here. It's not how it works. So, what happens when we have those conditions? In most cases, we don't want to treat the symptom, interfere with the body doing what it's trying to do. We want to help the body do what it's trying to do. Number one thing, stop putting in the bad stuff, and then work on the old stuff. And that's the whole idea behind a solid food vacation. A lot of great things happen when you quit wasting that energy, converting solid food to liquid. It gets redirected, gets rechanneled, changes the ionic pressure in our colon. The colon now becomes a fontanel instead of the lungs when we got pneumonia, or the nose and sinuses when we get a cold or a flu. Normally we can't use that retrograde flow in our colon. The average person can't because they got 12 to 15 mils backed up in their intestines. And it's not any more complicated than thinking our body is nothing but a pipe system. Pipes are plugged up. Stop pouring in the grease. Work on the old stuff. And that's what happens on a solid food vacation. So when we stop wasting all that energy, so many great things happen. We get a lot of nutrition without the effort. So we can address a lot of deficiency issues. And of course, consuming is not enough. Got to be able to absorb it, assimilate it. So sometimes that doesn't happen. There's a lot of things that can go wrong when you're doing everything right, but something doesn't happen. People all the time think I'm a miracle man. I'm psychic and I know exactly what's happening with you. I have no idea. It's you have to realize I am the antithesis of a doctor. I do just the opposite of a doctor. And what too many people do when they come to someone like me is they expect me to keep acting like a doctor. I've got this and I got this. What do I do? No, no, no. What do? Stop doing it. Do this instead. So this is where it gets real complicated. People think, oh, I just got one question, John. It's not that easy. I got to know your whole history. I got to know what you've been doing, when I coach people and I'm on day 57 or whatever and something's going on, I got a pretty good idea what might be happening because I've been keeping track of everything they've been doing. Now, how can I do that with you if you just call in it's one little sentence or something? I don't know. I got to spend more time than I've got right now to help anyone individually. Don't you guys understand? I want to work with billions of people, not just a handful. You play a role when it comes to being healthy. You've got to become a detective, a health detective. It's not that complicated. You just got to make sure you're doing everything right. That's the first step. That's what my channel is all about. You can learn knowledge of how to live, satisfy all of our needs. We got two groups of them. It's that second group of needs that is complicated, and there's no one that's more of an expert in that area than you. You know your body better than anyone else. So become a detective. Take some pictures of your eyes. Look at some iridology eye charts. and you can see if you have any damage on your body anywhere. Usually if you have certain symptoms, that can tie into a certain organ, and you can learn everything you need to know about that organ in probably one day. It's not that complicated. All you need to know is what the doctors don't know. And that is our body's nothing but a bunch of cells, two fluids, blood's the kitchen, lymph is the bathroom. Our colon's the other bathroom. We got two bathrooms, got to clean. That's all you got to do. The tricky part is how do you support the body if things aren't happening. Read a post the other day, someone saying, couldn't figure out what was wrong. I've been doing this and wasn't doing very good when I got checked out. Didn't have any vitamin C. And here I was doing all these oranges. Why not? She wasn't absorbing. So this can get tricky for some of us if it doesn't work. Fortunately, for about 90% of us, we don't have to do a whole lot to tweak this. But if we have certain organs that are damaged, you got to learn how to support them. And it doesn't take long to figure that out as long as you know where to go. You just got to realize who's reliable and who's not. Again, doctors have to answer for more lives in the next world than generals do. They're killing more people on the battlefield, which interestingly, and it's not interesting actually, it's sickening actually when you think about what this is. It's a form of sacrifice. The people who control us are Satanists. They worship Satan. You don't have to believe in God or Satan to understand this concept. If someone else believes this and they want to think like that, that's what's going to happen. Well, that's what these guys are doing. And the human sacrifice that was very obvious long ago is not as obvious at all right now. But our hospitals are temples of sacrifice. When they're injecting liquid fire into us, that's just like a form of human sacrifice, throwing you in the fire. And now we got wars with fire bombs, and my God, watch Hellstorm. If you want to get really infuriated at an injustice that's happened to a group of people, watch Hellstorm. Google that and watch it. It's a form of human sacrifice, burning us in fires, in wars. Remember the small group of people who own everything, they worship Satan, they finance both sides of the wars, they control what doctors learn, so they go in there and they just kill a whole bunch of people. It's all about dying and killing and torturing and pain and suffering for them, for us to go through, for them to get their kicks or whatever. I don't know what floats their boat. Hard to comprehend these type of people. And that's kind of why they get away with it. No one can imagine anyone can do these type of things because no one else thinks like that. It's really one of the biggest stumbling blocks we have right now when it comes for the average person to wrap their brain around what's happening to us. Who would ever think anyone could do those things on purpose? Intentionally create wars that kill tens of millions of people. Intentionally create pandemics that kill tens of millions of people. Intentionally inject liquid fire that's killing, I can't remember the numbers anymore. I did a video a while back on how many plane crashes were coming down every day from people dying of cancer, which is mainly dying of chemo. Liquid fire. It's happening right now. It's got to stop. But the ones in charge in the medical department at the very, very top are appointed there or put in position there, and they're controlling everything. The rest of you guys, when are you going to wake up and realize that your whole profession is the main reason why we can't get out of the hell we're in? Aren't there enough of you good doctors out there to do this? I know you're in quite the predicament, aren't you? What do? Can you do it once you retire? Doesn't matter then. Like Voltaire said, few doctors dare to undermine their income by spreading knowledge of preventive medicine, knowledge of how to live. Folks, we suffer for that lack of knowledge. And followers on my channel know all too well just how unpopular of a message that is, especially with the ones you love the most. They will indeed break your heart, won't they? And that's when you just got to turn it around and say, well, if I can get enough people together around me and we can reach the tipping point, I guarantee the people I love will jump on board. And if that day ever happens, and I sure do plan on seeing it happen soon, we'll all be in for a treat.